Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 376. Folks, every now and then when we get together, there's some good news to share on the program. Usually we're here and I'm whinging and yelling and gnashing my teeth all over the behavior of the federal government and governments elsewhere, and their inactivity when it comes to bringing these people to justice. Well, today is one of those rare occasions when we get together and there is some damn good news to share with you. And that good news is, well, Jean-Luc Brunel has been detained by French authorities. Now, this has been a long time coming. Jean-Luc Brunel, like I always explain him when we're using the comparison of a criminal enterprise or a mafia family, Brunel has always been, in my opinion, like the consigliere, right? The Tom Hagen. Not so much a lawyer, but a confidant of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Somebody who is part of their inner circle. Somebody who is intimately involved with not only Epstein, but with Maxwell. Now, the core four were all intimately involved as well, right? But they were lieutenants. They were acting below Maxwell and Epstein. While Jean-Luc Brunel, on the other hand, was afforded a different level of trust within the enterprise. He was who Jeffrey Epstein turned to bring girls from broken, war-torn nations in Europe. He was the one that Jeffrey Epstein turned to bring these models over for their company, MC Squared. This is a man who has been accused of not only assaulting Virginia Roberts sexually, but other women as well. And for Thizia Hoosman, it must have seemed like this day was never going to come. I know that I spoke to Thizia on Twitter a while back, and like the rest of the survivors of these people, she really wasn't too, she didn't really think that the FBI or the authorities were ever going to arrest this guy. And why would anyone think that these people are going to be arrested with the way things have went over the decades? But because of all of you out there and all of the pressure you have put on and all of the interest you have kept drummed up in this case, things are moving, folks, and things are moving quickly. I stated several times leading up to this that before the Ghislaine Maxwell situation gets underway with more discovery and all of the information turned over to Maxwell's attorneys, that there's going to be some things going on. And here is one of those dominoes with Jean-Luc Brunel being caught up. And even though the French don't extradite their citizens, that doesn't mean that American authorities aren't going to have access to speaking with Jean-Luc Brunel, because that's definitely going to occur. The French most assuredly will let the FBI speak with this man. And, look, I would not be surprised, like I've said, if we see some of these sealed indictments here in America start to be unsealed, and we start to see the core four start to receive the same fate as Ghislaine Maxwell and now Jean-Luc Brunel. And it's pretty weird, right? Usually these sort of operations are initiated from the bottom up. But since there's so much information already in this case, so much evidence already in this case, they were able to go after Maxwell and Brunel first. And then, now, they'll go after the underlings, in my opinion. So, be ready for that, folks. It's coming. And today, as we sit here together, just a few days before Christmas, we're all receiving a fantastic early Christmas present with this absolute scumbag being swooped up by the French authorities, and hopefully he'll now have to answer for the things that he has done with Jeffrey Epstein and for the things that he has done on his own. Our article this morning is from thedailybeast.com. Headline: Jeffrey Epstein's alleged pimp, Luc Brunel, nabbed as he boarded a flight to Africa. Now remember all the talk, right? Oh, he's in South America, he's in Brazil, he's here, he's there, he's everywhere. They knew where he was the whole time. The FBI knew where he was, I'm guessing. Whatever the French equivalent of the FBI or their investigative services branch, they knew where he was, I'm guessing. And they were just waiting for the right time to swoop in. And again, this is my opinion right here, folks, that I'm about to throw at you. But I am of the opinion that they have been in contact with American authorities, and this isn't just happening in a vacuum, right? This isn't just happening as a one-off. This is part of a much bigger global type sting operation, and I think that the walls are certainly closing in now at a rapid pace when it comes to Epstein's associates. And with Luc Brunel being swooped up, folks, this is cause for a celebration. This is a big fish. You know, I'm always talking about going big game hunting in regards to this case and going after the people that matter. Well, this is one of those people. And the French authorities have finally kicked it into gear, and they have brought him in. My question is, the timing, why now? What is this setting the table for? And I think we're going to have a lot of those answers very soon. This article was authored by Barbie Latza-Nadeau and Lachlan Cartwright. Luc Brunel, a French modeling agent and close ally and alleged pimp, consigliere, to late sexual predator Jeffrey Epstein, is in custody in Paris after attempting to board a flight to Dakar in Senegal. What the hell is he going to Senegal for? Oh, I know. Going to get you some more models, right? Yeah, right. Probably looking for more girls from bad circumstances to bring into your realm and your atmosphere to abuse, right? Hell's this guy going to Florida for? I mean, going to Africa for? Just what Africa needs, as if they don't have enough problems with people that are trying to exploit the continent and the people. Add Luc Brunel to the mix, heading down to Senegal to abuse some people's kids. Sounds like a great idea. Thankfully, they caught this idiot before he got on this plane. Paris prosecutors say he was taken into custody for rape, sexual assault against minors, sexual harassment, criminal conspiracy, and trafficking in human beings, according to La Parisienne newspaper. Again, criminal conspiracy, folks. That is not a crime of one. These court documents are littered with that verbiage. They are littered with that kind of language. So, if this is a conspiracy, as we think it is, if this is a conspiracy, as the authorities allege, then that only leads us to believe that it will not be much longer before more people are arrested, rounded up, and stamped with the stamp of sexual trafficker within Jeffrey Epstein's realm. That's what that verbiage means. That's what the language means. And the writing, most certainly, is on the wall. Brunel, who has been accused in the U.S. of rape and procuring young girls for Epstein, has not been seen since Epstein's death in a Manhattan prison in August 2019, but has been in France. Yeah, well, why would he leave France, right? If he didn't feel like he was in jeopardy in France, if he didn't feel like he was have any criminal liability there or that he'd get in trouble while there, and he knows he can't be extradited to America or elsewhere, why the hell would this moron want to leave France? I'd be finding some bunker and I'd be bedding myself down in that bunker if I was him. I certainly wouldn't be getting on a plane to Senegal. And another thing that it goes to show you, if Brunel was also being run as an asset by intelligence, it's clear that he has been burned as well, just like Maxwell and just like Epstein after the second arrest. And what they do is after they burn these assets, they clean up their fingerprints. They make sure that you can't tie them to these people. And that's what I've been saying forever here, right? I think that we're going to see these folks brought to justice, the Brunels of the world, the Core Fours of the world, and the Maxwells of the world. But all of the other enablers that were deeply involved with Epstein and his behavior, the only pathway to victory I see there, folks, the only way to bring these people down is the financial aspect of this case. Back in August, Paris Match reported that he was last seen in public in July of 2019 at a party at the Paris Country Club, an upscale members-only establishment outside the French capital. So-called polite society in France is obviously no different than so-called polite society in New York, huh? Yeah, we don't mind. Jean-Luc Brunel, you're allowed to come to the Paris Country Club. No one's kicking you out of here, buddy. Come on in. You're more than welcome. Go get yourself some hors d'oeuvres. These people, they don't care. They do not care when members of their small little so-called elite club are accused of such heinous crimes. They don't care because guess what? And I never felt like this before, right? I always felt that people were crazy when they said shit like this, but here we are. I feel like the whole lot of them at this point are questionable. Everybody that's involved in so-called polite society is suspect to me at this point. Are there good people that are part of this realm? I don't know, maybe. But so far, all of them that have been unmasked, all of them are disgusting excuses for humans. Brunel also reportedly planned to write a tell-all in the hopes of exonerating himself, but the project was abandoned. He and his lawyer even approached a crisis communication expert at one point, but the expert refused the contract. Imagine you're such a glowing ball of Epstein fallout that a crisis management team wouldn't even touch your story. Jean-Luc Brunel has been utterly burned as an asset, folks. This man has nowhere left to go. This man has nowhere to turn. His only hope at this point is going to be cooperating with the authorities. And I don't know French law well enough to know how that works as far as getting time off or anything like that. But I would not be surprised if Jean-Luc Brunel had one hell of a song to sing. Brunel's name appeared more than 15 times on flight logs for Epstein's private jet, and he visited Epstein close to 70 times when the financier, pedophile, was in jail in Florida for procuring an underage girl for prostitution. And you know what's so sad and crazy to think about? How, as close as Brunel and Epstein were, his name is only on the flight logs 15 times. But Bill Clinton is on 26 plus times? And there's no outrage. Where are all of the hard-charging people who like to claim that other people are using their biases? Don't you think that Bill Clinton should be getting an absolute avalanche of coverage at this point? In message logs from Epstein's Palm Beach home, where Brunel was a frequent guest according to Epstein employees, the French agent left cryptic messages that appeared to refer to young girls. And we saw this a lot from Jean-Luc Brunel and Jeffrey Epstein. They had their own little codified language that they would use, and they thought that they were cute, right? And that's another thing with these people. They like to be brazen. They like to shove it in our faces, put it right there in plain sight for us to see. And everybody thinks that it's so ludicrous that somebody would do that they look right by it. They overlook it. And meanwhile, these sons of bitches are engaging in all kinds of crazy, disgusting, draconian behavior. Right under the nose of authorities. Right under the nose of everybody that is hanging out and cavorting with them. In one note, Brunel reported that he just did a good one, 18 years, who told him, "I love Jeffrey." I mean, really? Yeah, that's not weird or anything, right? These guys would treat these girls like chattel, like they were just objects for use and then to be discarded. And again, how many of these girls from Europe, how many of these unnamed girls from Eastern Europe that Jean-Luc Brunel and Jeffrey Epstein had in their clutches have gone unnamed, that nobody knows about? What happened to these girls? Where did they end up? What have their lives become after being abused mentally, physically, and every other way you could possibly imagine by Brunel and Epstein? That is a question that I'd really like answered. And I think that a good starting step is putting this Jean-Luc Brunel guy over the coals and trying to get some answers. In another message to Epstein, Brunel stressed that he has a teacher for you to teach how to speak Russian. She is 2 by 8 years old, not blonde. Lessons are free, and you can have first today if you call. So you really think Jeffrey Epstein was getting Russian language lessons from a 16-year-old girl? That's what we're going to go with, huh? You ever hear a Rosetta Stone? What this means is Jean-Luc Brunel had a 16-year-old girl for Jeffrey Epstein to sexually abuse at no cost, and he could have the first one today, the first go-around today if he wants. That's what that message means, all right? You don't have to be great at figuring out coded messaging. You don't have to be one of the wind talkers. That's exactly what that message means, okay? And just like the codified language in the Podesta emails and WikiLeaks, nobody in the legacy media wants to touch this kind of shit. You want to talk about radioactive and explosive? Folks, we have entered the realm. We might as well be in the Fukushima reactor. French prosecutors launched an inquiry into Brunel, who founded Karen Models and MC Squared Model Management, which led to Wednesday's arrest. Think about this. Imagine you sent your daughter to either of those modeling agencies. Imagine what your daughter might have been introduced to, what sort of disgusting people and behavior. I would show up with a flamethrower if my daughter was abused by these people. Let me tell you what, if I had kids and someone abused these kids, my kids, it would be a wrap. I'd end up in prison for the rest of my life. You ever see the movie Law Abiding Citizen? Yep, that would be me. It's incredible. I didn't expect it all. Thizia Hoosman, a Dutch former model who accused Brunel of drugging her and raping her when she was 18, told the Daily Beast. Hoosman reported Brunel to the French police in September 2019 after Epstein's arrest. And Thizia must be over the moon right now, right? Her accusations have now been validated by the authorities. The authorities have now arrested the person that she alleges drugged, assaulted, and abused her. And now, hopefully, he's going to face the music. Hopefully, he's going to face the full weight of the French judicial system, whatever that may be. Now, there are people that are way more versed with the French judicial system than I am. So I won't even pretend to know how the process works over there. What I do know is this, though. The FBI is going to be showing up at his jail cell. Let me take a look at my watch right about now, okay, to have a talk with this guy. They've already contacted the French authorities, I bet. And they're going to want to have a nice, long heart-to-heart with Jean-Luc Brunel. Now, again, I don't know what the process is in France, but I would think that these sorts of crimes in France or in any civilized nation carry a severe penalty when children are involved. Brunel raped me in 1991. He drugged me and raped me, and I never came forward as I was ashamed, she said. After Epstein's arrest, I felt I had to come forward. And how many more ladies and women and girls were ashamed because of this? How many more aspiring models were abused and discarded by Epstein and Brunel? I'm telling you, folks, there are probably hundreds, maybe thousands. After Epstein was arrested and Brunel became a person of interest, Husman reported him even though the case was past the statute of limitations. But I reported it in the hopes other women would come forward, and then 11 other women came forward, but they were all past the statute of limitations. And that is definitely a risk that gets run here when you're dealing with these powerful people. And when these crimes were committed in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, things were a lot different, right? We have progressed as a society. These sort of crimes that were looked at as the shame of the victim are no longer looked at that way. These survivors and these victims who come forward, they now have a voice, and people are listening to their claims. Your money and your power is no longer going to shield you, is no longer going to protect you when allegations such as these emerge. You're going to have to answer hard questions. You're going to have to defend your name. That is the environment we're in now. And these people don't know how to do that. All they know how to do is get their attack dogs in the media and their surrogates in the media to try and destroy these victims, to try and destroy these survivors. And while that worked in the past, that shit is not working anymore. And we're seeing it right now play out right in front of our eyes. Frustrated, Husman then went to the French authorities earlier this year. I called the French police this year asking why isn't anyone working on it, and why is he walking around in Paris like nothing is happening? But the police said you have to be patient. We are trying to make a case that will stick. We are trying to make a case that will stick. So if that's the case, and that's what they told Physia, then you have to think that whatever case the police have now put together is strong enough that they feel confident that they're going to be able to not only charge him, but indict him. She said, adding that she felt Brunel was tipped off and en route to Dakar because Senegal doesn't have an extradition treaty with France. Well, there you go. Remember I was just asking why this guy would be going to Senegal? Talking about abusing girls, etc., etc.? Well, there you go. No extradition treaty with France. That makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. I'm sure one of his powerful homies sent him a little message. Oh, oui, Jean-Luc Brunel. You're gonna get arrested. You need to go on a plane and leave France. I'm sure that's what occurred. But just like Epstein, wasn't as slick as he thought. And in the end, old boy got hemmed up. I had lost faith, and I thought he's being protected and nothing is going to happen. But finally, he's facing charges, and they are really serious charges, she said. I was crying, but they were tears of joy. Someone has to pinch me. It's really overwhelming. We have to see what happens next. If there is going to be a trial, I'm going to go there 100%, and if they require my testimony, of course I will give evidence. I didn't come forward for nothing. Physia. Give yourself a round of applause, young lady. You did a fine job coming forward. Very, very powerful. And I remember when you first came forward and we were talking. You, like the survivors in the Epstein case, have shown incredible fortitude, incredible courage, and, in the face of such horrendous evil and so many powerful people, it takes a real strong person to come out and challenge these people. And Physia, it wasn't for nothing. Your testimony, your powerful words, and your courage led to this moment. So everybody make sure you go and give Physia a like on Twitter and give her some cheers, right, for this finally occurring for her abuser finally being brought to justice. I know it's only step one, him being arrested, right? No convictions have been made yet. But again, folks, it's progress in the right direction. After years of being stuck in neutral, hell, going in reverse, the ball is finally being moved forward. Husman's book, Close Up, details meeting Brunel in Paris when she was 18, and Brunel invited her to Paris. I met Epstein through Brunel, she said. I stayed at Brunel's place in Paris, and at night, there were parties with older business friends of his and young, very young models, and one night he gave me a drink and said we had to celebrate the start of my career in Paris. 15 minutes later, she said she knew something was wrong. I started to feel really strange and woozy and nauseous, and not myself. And then he took me to his bedroom, and I couldn't even fight him, and he raped me, she told the Daily Beast. I mean, can you imagine? She had to live with this her whole life. She never came forward. She couldn't tell anybody about it because of the shame. That shit has to end. The whole shame that surrounds this. The shame is on the abuser, not on the victim or the survivor. That's a bullshit, archaic way to think about things. And now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean every accusation is true, right? We have to be thoughtful when we're looking at this stuff, and we have to look at all of the evidence, and we can't just fire off at the mouth if it's a situation that's just starting to grow and there's gray area. But that is not what this case is. This case has been going on for decades. We have tons of evidence that's available to us in a circumstantial manner. And now, not only do we have circumstantial evidence, we have all kinds of statements, eyewitness statements from people that were actually abused by these people. So this is not a he said, she said, or a gray area case. This is a case that should be a slam dunk victory. I woke up the next day, and the only thing I thought of was I had to escape his house, and I took the first train out of Paris to Brussels, and I never came back to Paris until last year, when I went back to speak to the police, and they took it really seriously. It's good to hear that the police in Paris are taking this seriously, right? I've heard a lot of things about the authorities in Paris, and a lot of it's probably scuttlebutt. I don't believe that the authorities in Paris don't want to take down child abusers, and I certainly don't believe the people of Paris are okay with it. But I don't know too much about their legal system, so I won't sit here and front like I do. I hope that they go balls to the wall and they throw every single charge possible at this man. Husman spent 4.5 hours telling Paris police what happened. I had to go into all the details and relive it, which was really heavy, she said. For all these years, I had tried to forget, but in your memory, you have a lot of details, especially from that night. So we've heard from a lot of survivors, a lot of girls, a lot of women who have said the same thing, right? There's a lot of repressed memories from the nights of their assault, jumbled memories, stuff like that. And that's all because the subconscious mind works to try and protect you by burying that shit. I'm certainly not a psychologist, but, it's pretty common sense to know that. So, of course, there was going to be, situations where you would think that you would forget and there'd be gaps, but when you start digging into it, that subconscious opens up, and a lot of these survivors end up having a bunch of memories flood back. Lisa Bloom, who represents Husman, told the Daily Beast that her client will now help the French authorities in any way she can. One of the 7 Jeffrey Epstein sexual assault survivors I represent has alleged in our litigation that Jean-Luc Brunel trafficked her to Epstein, Bloom said. This took place in 2019 after Epstein's criminal conviction. We are very pleased that at long last Mr. Brunel is being brought to justice. Well, you all know how I feel about Lisa Bloom, but a broken clock is even right twice a day, and she's right here. It's good that this idiot is being brought to justice finally. Brunel said through lawyer last year he would answer questions about his relationship with Epstein. His lawyers denied that he was on the run, and that he denies all allegations of impropriety. I don't believe his lawyers for 1 second, okay? Not for 1 single second. Just like I don't believe Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers, why would this guy's lawyers be honest with us? If he wanted to come forward, what has he been waiting for? He could have hopped his ass on a flight and flew to New York. The FBI has an office in Paris. Go and talk to him. Brunel has also denied any business relationship with Epstein, who is allegedly the silent E in MC squared, referring to the theory of relativity. But Brunel did admit in court documents that the rich sex offender, pedophile, did extend him $1 million line of credit to invest in a new business with elite models registered at the address of Epstein's investment firm in New York. The Department of Justice officially declined to comment on Brunel's arrest and its ongoing Epstein probe. Oh, you damn well know that they weren't commenting. They know what's up. The DOJ is on the phone with France as we speak. I would not be surprised if FBI interrogators are on their way to wherever he's being held. And that's not even hyperbole. I would not be surprised. The survivors have long awaited the arrest of Jean-Luc Brunel, said Anne-Claire Lejeune, a lawyer representing several of Brunel's alleged survivors. They welcome this custody with relief and confidence in the legal consequences that will be given. Their word finally takes on a meaning. And damn right, that is the perfect statement. It's about time that these survivors of Jean-Luc Brunel, Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell have their allegations validated. And it's long beyond time that this scumbag jackoff, Jean-Luc Brunel, was in bracelets and sitting in a cell. Folks, 2020 is the year that the predators turn into the prey. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with the episode can be found in the description box. And to everybody who helped keep the lights on around these parts by donating to the GoFundMe or the PayPal account, thank you very much, folks. Your donations help me put out all of this content and spend the time that's needed doing this research. So, again, thank you folks very, very much for your generosity. I'll be back later on, and we will pick back up where we left off. Enjoy your Thursday, everybody.